welcome back. It's still Business Incorporated on Channels Television, and half year is still the news of the day. Willibon comes in. I'm sure she does have half year, but we'll begin with not so good one. The Naira dipped 40%, about that. First half of the year. Yeah. And, well, I know we did have a little bit of recovery, well, not too small. On Friday, we saw that to close the month, but that didn't help so much. I wonder how the second half will be.
When we look at the analysis made by also on Bloomberg, when they talked about analysis comparing Nigeria's and Nigeria, Egypt, Ghana's currencies were the worst performing in the half year. It's not
even the Kwacha of Zambia also. They also, and I do know that they're trying to stop the usage of USD for domestic transaction because of the same dip in the value of the
local currency. So if we find something to edge our currencies, to back our currencies, rather than depend on imports of these currencies or dependence on the use of the dollar, I think we'll be able to come out of this situation. Yeah, production is one of the ways we can
obviously
actually do that.
It's a proven fact, and that's why the guest on Business Morning did say that. I mean, if you have nothing to sell to the world, then how do you expect your currency to have value? If you just keep buying and you're using USD, you're demanding another person's currency. There's no demand on your currency.
And then an expert did say, what is the fair value of the Naira? It is what you give, what you attribute to the Naira, the value you place on the Naira that people will actually see. So if we place a lot of value in the Naira, we produce, we export our goods and services, people will actually value the Naira and they will place a fair value to it.
And right now, demand for
that Naira will
well, I wanted to say God help us, but somebody said God has already helped us.
Let's help ourselves now. So it's half year, as Ini said, and let's check out how major equities in Africa are doing on the first trading day of July. Major equities in Africa, positive sentiments we saw there at intraday. Nigeria's NGX was in the green, although slightly up, marginally up, I'd say 0.01%, slightly in the flat line, but it was up 0.03% as much later in the day, still at the 100,000 level it regained on Friday. Now let's look at South Africa's JSE at intraday. It was up 0.88%, and let's see how Egypt and Kenya performed. Egypt's EGX was up 1.28% at intraday, while Kenya closed Friday's session up in the green as well, but we'll see how the market will close today. But let's check out activities at the NGX. Let's bring in Onose Asotie now, is investment analyst, Main Street Capital Limited. Good afternoon, Onose. It's good to have you on the show. It's half year, Onose. Earnings are coming in. And some of them for the full year, 2024. We've seen some from Red Star Express, Academy Press, Royal Exchange, Coronation Insurance. But how did they fare, in your opinion? Because some of them, it's kind of mixed performance there. And how much of this performance, how much of the influence from the performance did we see at intraday on the first trading day of July?
Hi, Will. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a mixed performance from some of the earnings that we've seen. For example, Coronation is the comeback kid, of the bunch. Posting the most impressive results. They doubled their revenue to about 10.5 billion from 5 billion. At the same period last year, and their profit after tax is up 4.4 billion from a negative 1 billion. And then we see in the intraday trading. Coronation is on full bid. Nobody is selling, everybody is buying. About 7 million shares or 7 million bids for bids for about 7 million shares on the intraday. That's what we'll see. So and then on the other hand, which is on the opposite the opposite end, we see a company like Real Exchange that logged in some losses, about I think 200 million in losses, both this year and even the previous session. And then when you look at Real Exchanges trading on on the markets, it's on full sell. About 1,000 or about 1.3 million shares being put up for offer. When we see a company like Red Star Express, they were profitable, about 500 million, which isn't 300 or 500 million, which isn't so much. It's not as there isn't so much of a difference between the current earnings and the previous earnings. And then we've seen some positive price movement for Red Star Express, but it's not pronounced as companies like Coronation and Real Exchange, which serve as both, I guess, positive and negatives. So we have seen direct a direct influence of these earnings on the trading, and then as more earnings continue to be released, we expect to see prices tend to reflect the earnings as investors are now a bit more informed and then tend to adjust some of their projections based on what we're now seeing.
Okay, yeah, you were right about that. Red Star Express did have that, but their group earnings was over 344 million naira, and for the company was over 155 million. But we'll keep track on how the stock is performing on the exchange. But let's move on to something which is still very significant, or which will have a significant impact on the market. Is the bill to amend the CBN Act, which has passed its second reading at the Senate. So some experts say, if passed, the amendments will weaken the Apex Bank's autonomy. In your opinion, Nose, how will this affect investor confidence in the markets, especially for FPIs?
Yeah, so one thing the market likes is stability, especially the fixed income space in this country, since fixed income is really the more pronounced market. I don't know if you remember the election. I think was it Tinubu's election time. Yeah, it was the last election, and the market was kind of when there was news about when there was a bit of uncertainty, around even collation of results and things like that. The fixed income space, we saw some, I guess some topsy-turvy movements, and then when the president was announced, then we saw the market started to, I guess, adjust and stabilize, which just shows that whether it doesn't matter what exactly is going on, the market likes stability. Now, the problem with this is when you have one of the main reasons that they want to, I guess, amend the CBN Act is so that they can unify monetary and fiscal policy. Because for the last couple of months, we've seen a kind of, I guess, divergence with monetary and fiscal policy, where it's like the CBN is doing one thing and the government is doing another thing, and say, okay, so now they want to merge it. One problem with this in terms of stability is you might not have a situation where monetary and fiscal policy start to change with incoming governments coming in. So a new government comes in and maybe they now try to start to change people in the committee, because they want to set up a committee that will oversee the unification of fiscal and monetary policy. And then when you now start having changes in those committees, according to government, we live in a country where one government comes in and starts to unravel what the previous government did, and then you have things like that. And then you really do not want that mess coming into the monetry system, right, which is why people are concerned, and even organizations like the IMF is concerned. So with that, if that happens, if this bill passes, we might have a situation where FPIs might want to sit on the sidelines a bit to see if there actually is stability in the market. And if this passes and the committee is set up, they will need to prove that, one, there is stability and that stability is sustainable. And they will have to do it in a very obvious way where, foreign companies and foreign organizations like the IMF can see and certify that, okay, yes, it's stable and it's sustainable. Else, we might start to see dwindling interest in foreign portfolio investments.
Exactly right there. We don't want a lack of continuity, the Apex Bank, because that's the leading bank, and everyone just said looks to the bank for monetary policy direction. Onase, just in 30 seconds, could you give us an outlook for the day and the rest of the week? Do you think we'll end in the green, and what do you see for the rest of the week in 30 seconds?
For the day, I think we'll end slightly bullish. For the week, I also think we'll end bullish. We're seeing very positive price actions, even with banks, and some other companies. So if we continue to see positive earnings results, I think we'll also end the week bullish.
Thank you so much, Nose Asote, now investment analyst with Main Street Capital. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on Business Incorporated. So we move on to other stocks in the Middle East as the Gulf were positive at intraday as well. Abu Dhabi was up 0.08%. You see Dubai also up 0.02%. And Abu Dhabi gaining for a third straight session. And now Dubai also still within the region. We see Saudi boosted by gains in heavy gains in energy and material sector. It was up 0.2% at intraday, and while the Qatari index was also up 0.18%, continuing its winning streak to a 20th session. Now, data showed that net foreign direct investments, that's FDI inflows to Saudi Arabia, rose 5.6% to 9.5 billion Saudi riyal. That's about $2.53 billion in the first quarter of 2024. Let's check out the U.S. now. Let's see how stock futures did in early trade. We see it up 0.19% for Dow Jones, S&P 500 0.12%, and then Nasdaq futures up 0.03%. Now, looking at what the market trend right now, Wall Street is coming off a losing session, and investors are keeping an eye out for the jobs data that's coming out on Friday. The market's going to be closed on Thursday for July the 4th, holiday, and we're seeing also that excitement around artificial intelligence, and that stock's also moving because NVIDIA, leading that pack with leading the S&P 500 to a 14.5% gain last week. We see the Nasdaq also rallying 18.1%. Momentum for technology stocks are not dying down yet because people and experts are saying that is still a big market to be tapped into. So let's look at Asia now and see how they performed, how they closed today's session. They started the second half of the year on a positive note, and investors assessed the June business activity data from China as well as Japan's business confidence readings. Lastly, Japan's Nikkei 225 was up 0.12% to close at 39,631 points. The Kospi in South Korea was up 0.23%, and we see the Hang Seng Index in China closed today for a holiday though, but closed last week 0.01%. Let's look at mainland China and see how they performed. So 0.9% to close today, and Australia's S&P 200 was down 0.22%. So the markets, it's just Australia that's red for the region, but we're hoping, because last week we did see that red on Thursday. Well, we see that rebound today for other markets, and we hope that, the news about U.S. and the Fed's minutes, we're hoping that maybe those sentiments are bubbling in the market and giving them that boost right now.
I think we're expecting minutes tomorrow from Jerome Powell, and that's what obviously move the market. But thank you so much, Will. Thank you for that.